So those air test review diagnostics are due then on Thursday, the 14th. So it kind of makes sense to do the review before you take the test. So anyway, when you log in, it looks like it's all the same Google form, but those are actually different tests. There's a total of 8. Each one is probably, Ms. J, what would you say on average, about 12 questions each, maybe 15?
Yeah, they're not a lot. It could be anywhere from 8 to 20, but average around 12 to 15 questions.
And then there's a document there that I want you to report your scores on. You can take these diagnostic tests as many times as you want. We have an unlimited amount of retakes set. So, and by the way, there's also information on there that will help you find the stuff that you need to know for some of these tests. Like, we haven't gone over Ohio government. We haven't gone over Ohio Constitution. We haven't gone over government finance. But I don't think those concepts are too difficult for you to understand. So anyway, that's what we got going on for the 14th. So that's your next set of assignments. So like I said, you don't have to do those over spring break. That's if you choose to do them over spring break, great, you'll get ahead. That's fine with me. But certainly you have time when you get back from spring break to do that. And those of you that will be in, wait, never mind. I was going to say tomorrow. You guys aren't in my class tomorrow, the live learners. So never mind. Okay, looks like if you're just getting in, go ahead and vote on this. And let me finish getting attendance real fast. Okay. Morgan, is Angel with you today?
No, I'm at home.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, I'm going to stop sharing that. And I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint to run you through today's topic. Today's topic is, it's a big one, criminal justice reform. We've done a bunch of little topics. This is not a little topic. This is a big one. Fast. Here we go. Okay, so criminal justice reform, and the view I want you to take is, should criminal justice, or I don't want you to take it, I just want to guide you towards this. Should criminal justice be punishment or rehabilitation, or maybe a mixture of both? Okay, so when we say criminal justice, we mean, you know, a crime's committed, the police investigate a crime, person goes to court, perhaps maybe has a trial, and then ends up in prison or gets a fine, or you know, they're put on probation. So this is the criminal justice system. Should it be that should we have it in existence for punishment or for rehabilitation? Okay, let's take a look at some crime statistics in the United States. I hear a lot of folks say violent crime is at an all-time high in the United States. That is incorrect, because the all-time high was 1993, as you can see. And these are FBI statistics right here. Violent crime, and that's not the only form of crime either, has basically, it's on a downward trend since the early 1990s, okay? And you can see that it's even from, this is 2018 to 2019. I think crime has gone up a little bit in 2020. But you can see it's roughly staying about the same, almost the same level. Okay, so not just violent crimes, but property crime rates have gone down since, it says plunged here. I don't know if plunged is the right word. I don't know if I'd use the same word, but definitely violent crimes have gone down. This is violent crimes per 1,000 people from the FBI. And that's down from 747.1 per 1,000 people to 379. So that is a pretty significant drop. That is almost half. And then you can see the victimization of people per 1,000 people ages 12 and up this is from the Bureau of Justice, the Justice Department. Bureau of Justice Statistics is what that stands for. That's gone down tremendously. Property crime has decreased as well. And then property victimization has decreased as well. So I'm not downplaying the role and the importance of crime and saying crime isn't a problem, because it certainly is. I mean, one crime is a problem, but it has been trending downward since the 1990s. Okay, now I want you to consider some statistics from the FBI. Okay, I pulled these from the FBI's 2019 crime report. There were about 10 million reported crimes in the United States in 2019. 7 million were committed by whites, 2.6 million by African Americans. Okay, I want you to keep that into consideration when we talk about the prison population. We look at the demographics of the prison population. Okay, so what is that? Almost 3 times, that is 3 times as many crimes are committed by whites than blacks in the United States. There were 11,060 murders in 2019. Most arrests, however, were for drug abuse, drug possession, and so forth. That was 1.5 million arrests. The top 5 assaults, simple assault. This is underneath drug abuse. Simple assault, DUIs, which is driving under the influence, theft, and aggravated assault. The difference between assault and aggravated assault is with a weapon. The lowest crime was gambling. And then property crimes outnumber violent crimes by over 2 to 1. Okay, so for every violent crime that's committed, there are 2 property crimes, and property crimes would be theft is considered a property crime. Harming somebody's property, trespass. Those are property crimes. Now, here are some clearance rates. Here's what the clearance rate is. Okay, I learned this a couple of weeks ago. The FBI defines clearance as at least one person has been arrested, charged with commission of the offense, and turned over to the court for prosecution, whether following arrest, a court summons, or police notice. In other words, the police have cleared the crime. The police have said, we've investigated this crime. This is the person that we think has done it. And they've turned it over to the criminal justice system at that point. Okay. Now, here's what was surprising to me. In 2019, less than half, 45.5% of violent crimes were cleared. So most violent crimes, almost 55%, were not solved. Only 17.2% of property crimes were cleared. So I'm not saying the police are not doing their job, but I was very surprised that I thought violent crimes were pretty much open and closed. We found the person who did it, and here we go. But most of them aren't cleared. In other words, they don't even turn it over to the criminal justice system. And only 17.2, and put 17.2 in perspective. Remember, for every 1 violent crime, there's 2 property crimes. So those really have a low chance of getting solved. Now, of violent crimes, 61% of murder crimes were cleared. 52.3% of aggravated assaults and 32.9% of rape cases were cleared. Now, these are things that are reported to the police. Not every crime is obviously reported to the police. So these are just the ones that are reported to them. Property crimes. Only 18.4% of larceny theft offenses are cleared. 14.1% of burglary, 13.8% of motor vehicle theft, and 23.8% of arson crimes. So I guess if you're looking at this, I don't think any of you have a desire to be a criminal, but if you're going to be a criminal, if you look at the statistics, steal cars, because that's the easiest one to get away with, it looks like. please don't repeat that to your parents that I gave you that advice. Okay, now, as far as worldwide incarceration rates, so where does the United States sit compared to other countries? Now, these would be crimes that were cleared and crimes that have been cleared also by the criminal justice system. Okay, so these are folks that have been incarcerated. Now, if somebody is punished for a crime, it doesn't necessarily mean that they've been incarcerated. Incarceration means they're placed in prison or jail. If somebody is placed on probation, they're not incarcerated. If somebody is fined or given community service, that does not count for incarceration. Okay, so for every 100,000 people in the United States, there are 639 people in jail. We have 2.2 million people in the United States. Okay, and roughly half of those are people in jail for, I don't want to say repeat offenders. Well, they're repeat offenders, not necessarily for the same crime, but they've been in jail before. Okay. The next closest nation is El Salvador, Turkmenistan, which used to be part of the Soviet Union, Thailand, Palau, which is in the South Pacific. That's an island in the South Pacific, Rwanda, Cuba, Maldives, Bahamas, and Grenada. By the way, Cuba, Maldives, Bahamas, and Grenada, those are islands in the Caribbean. I'm sorry, the Maldives are in off of the coast of Africa. So we always make a big deal about human rights violations in China and human rights violations in Russia, but they're not even close to being on this list here. So we are by far the country of the world that incarcerates more people than any other nation. Okay, now here, let's look at some arguments in favor of punishing or in favor of using the criminal justice system to rehabilitate. Okay, the statistics I showed you, violent crime is and property crime is on the decrease, or on a 30-year decline. Okay, people that advocate that, hey, criminal justice, you put people in jail to punish them. They're saying it works. Putting lawbreakers in jail works. We started amping up the prison population in the United States in the early 90s. That's when a lot of that was the war on drugs was going on, and it's still going on, but a lot of people were placed in jail for drug crimes. Okay, so putting lawbreakers in jail, it works. It causes crime to go down. They also point out that only 5% of cases go to trial. I found this out. I couldn't believe the statistic. I had to look it up twice. I heard it on a podcast, and I had to verify it on the internet. 5% of the cases go to trial. 95% are plea bargained. Okay, that technically amounts to pleading guilty. Okay, so our criminal justice system, the police when they find somebody who's guilty, they do a darn good job, a good enough job that the person's going to sign a plea bargain. Okay, and I don't know if you remember what a plea bargain is, but think back of earlier in the year when we looked at the fire video, the guy in Texas that was accused of arson and killing his 3 children. He was offered a plea bargain. His lawyer said, hey, the prosecution has offered you a plea bargain. This plea bargain says you will plead guilty, but you will not get the death penalty. You'll have to go in jail you'll serve, life in prison with no chance of parole, but you won't get the death sentence. He should have taken that because that was a lesser sentence than what he got. And that statistics show that if somebody goes to trial, it's almost always, they always get a harsher penalty than if they would have signed a plea bargain. Okay, so 95% of the cases that the police turn over to the criminal justice system are plea bargained. Okay, and that's, again, technically amounts to pleading guilty. 40 to 60% of juvenile delinquents stop offending by early adulthood, age 24. There is a very high rate of juvenile delinquency, what they call recidivism. Okay, so juvenile delinquents are placed into the system, their punishment is over, they get out into society and they commit another crime. Okay, but if we average that out, 50% of juvenile delinquents by the age of 24, they've grown up enough where they're like, I'm not going to get in trouble anymore, and they don't. And as far as rehabilitation goes, people that advocate punishment say, well, prisoners can and do get help in prison. They can get a GED. They can take college classes sometimes in prison. They get drug counseling. They get mental health services and so forth. So perhaps, I want to say this in air quotes, jail is better than maybe their life was on the outside because they're getting the help that they need. All right, now, how about rehabilitation? People that advocate for rehabilitation say many criminals have mental illnesses, 15 to 20%, and they commit crimes because of their mental illness, or they get apprehended by the police because of their mental illness and they have been able to take their medication. We talked about this when we did the section on the Wednesday debate on defunding the police. You can use these resources to improve employability or treating mental illness problems. Norway is a very famous country that has done this. Norway has said years ago, they said, this punishment is not working. Let's focus on rehabilitation rate. And let's face it, if somebody has a job and a good job, more than likely they're not going to commit a crime. Okay. What causes people not to commit crimes are the fact that they are, I want to say, vested in society. They have a job, perhaps they have a significant other, they have children. And then what you'll do is you'll want to make sure that those folks are taken care of. 64% of prisoners who have been convicted of violent offenses were arrested within 8 years, compared to 40% of those convicted of nonviolent offenses. Okay, so what that means is that's the recidivism rate. That's 64% of violent prisoners that get a punishment, incarceration punishment, 64% of them end up committing another violent offense and end up in jail again, where 40% of those that are convicted of nonviolent offenses end up in jail again. Okay, so they're saying that the rehabilitation, I'm sorry, the punishment aspect is not working. African Americans are incarcerated in state prisons across the country at a rate that's 5 times more than the rates of whites. And I want to go back to the fact that, let's go to this, that out of the 10 million crimes reported to the FBI, or the FBI did surveys on, 7 million were committed by whites, 2.6 by African Americans, 2.6 million by African Americans. So that's almost 4 times, that's actually 3 times. Whites commit crimes at 3 times the rate of African Americans, yet African Americans are incarcerated 5 times more than whites. Okay, I think you can look at that and say, well, maybe there's some racism in our criminal justice system. And about 50% of juvenile offenders become adult offenders. So, if they're a violent juvenile offender, they have a 50% chance of becoming an adult violent offender. Okay. Any questions? And by the way, Morgan, I got your chat that Angel's with you, so I will change that in attendance. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put you in.
Hey, Ficker, that's Alexis, not me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so Alexis, Angel's with Alexis. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I'm just used to her being with you. Okay, all right. I'll put you in your breakout rooms. Let's do 3 breakout rooms today. Okay, and then there's a form to fill out as well. And then I'll put the Jamboard. When you come back, the Jamboard will be up like it was last week, and you can start throwing your ideas on the Jamboard. Okay. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I'm going to put the link to the Jamboard. It's on Classroom, but I'll put the link in the chat here. Figure it out. Go. Okay, you guys can go ahead and if you're coming back in, go on the Jamboard and put your thoughts on there. Just make sure you do it on the Bell 5 one. Okay, and then I'm asking for, not necessarily, are you in favor of punishment or are you in favor of rehabilitation? But just what are some of your ideas about the criminal justice system? It's one of those things that a lot of people complain about, but I don't see many folks saying, here's what we should do about it. Okay, so maybe you could put start some ideas up there, and if you can come up with something that maybe we could change about it, feel free to do that.
Wait, are we doing Bell 5 or AP?
Are they, wait a minute. Yeah, Bell 5.
So what's the AP one for?
Did you pull that up on Classroom?
Yeah. There's two of them. One that says AP thoughts on criminal justice reform.
Okay, I'll use the one on that's on Classroom. AP thoughts on criminal justice reform. I don't know why I have two of these, but I'll put a link to the correct one.
So AP.
Yeah, go to the AP one. I'm sorry. There we go. Sorry about that. I don't know why I have two of these. By the way, if your ideas are things like, you want to take statistics in there, like how crime is going down and it works and, punishment works, you don't have to, it doesn't necessarily have to be about reform. You can say, I'd like to keep things the way they are. then while we're doing that, does anybody have anything that they want to share with the rest of the class?
I wanted to say something.
Okay,
I think there's not really a way, which I could have just typed this. Should I just type it?
no, you can say it.
Oh, okay.
You could do both,
What I
actually.
was saying in the my breakout room, I was saying that there's not really a way that you could tell the government to focus on one, like focus on one and not the other, because they both have benefits to the whole system. But I think there's a better way we can manage the rehabilitation part. Also, the what is it? It was what was the other part? It was and
Punishment and in rehabilitation.
yeah, I think there's a better way we can manage both. But I think it's just if people are willing to go through the extra steps to make sure that it's all managing well. I think that's what people probably don't want to do. So I don't know if I'm making sense because
No, you're making perfect sense. I think what you're saying is put lawbreakers in jail. I mean, that's that punishment. I've never been to jail. I visited jail before on field trips, and it's not pleasant at all. And I would, my first day in there, I would think I need to get out of here, and I don't ever want to get returned. But easier said than done, right? I mean, how difficult is it to get a job if you have a record, especially a felony? And then if you don't find a job, you might slide back into old habits. And I think, is that what you're saying, Morgan? Is that you think that, okay, yeah, punish people, but maybe the probation system needs to be a little better.
yeah, there should be depending on your situation, the severity of the situation, I feel like they should be able to decide which one would be beneficial to you.
Okay. All right. Who put avoid arresting repeating drug offenders? We cannot stop all drug use, and I feel we should be using money going towards rehabilitating offenders that cause a detriment to society. Okay. So if you're focusing on the drug problem, there's a couple of things in there. We cannot stop all drug use. Does that mean that we should legalize drug use and decriminalize it?
I'm the one who put that, and I was actually going to say I think we should decriminalize things like cannabis and psychedelic mushrooms. And honestly, I don't think we should be arresting people for drugs all the time, because like I said, they're going to do drugs if they want to. We're not going to be able to stop everybody from doing drugs, but what we can help do is help prevent people from being in a bad spot to even offend in the first place. I feel like we could be using what we use for people who use drugs. I feel like we could be using that to prevent offenders in the first place.
Okay, so I'll give you a simple example. I think of what you mean is we used to have our cell phone policy at school was as soon as a kid had it out of their pocket, we had to collect it as a teacher. And we had to send it to the office, and it was documented, and the student could get their cell phone at the end of the day. Okay. Now, what do you think our number one offense was in our discipline reports?
Definitely kids having their phones.
Of course. And we had meetings about it. And my point was, we've lost the battle. Kids are going to be on their phones as long as it's not distracting to their learning. So we changed the rules, and hardly anybody got in trouble anymore for cell phone use. So I think you're kind of, drug offenders, same thing, right? Let's decriminalize it. And then we're going to reduce the population of prisons. And if we reduce the population of prisons, then it's going to cost less money, and take the money that's not being used to house drug offenders and use it to actually rehabilitate criminals.
Right. And I feel like I feel like it's kind of human nature to want to do what you're being told not to do. So like being so intense on drug offenders, I feel like just makes more people want to actually go and, you know, try drugs and see what happens. And I just feel like if we like step back and don't, if we're not so harsh on it, I feel like less people will want to do it and it would just be better all around.
Yeah, there's that whole thing that, ooh, society says I'm not supposed to do this. I wonder, there's a curiosity there. I wonder what's going on with this thing, and they try it.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. It may not even be like oh, I want to get like screwed up on drugs. It's like you're saying, it could be just, oh, well, why are they not letting us do that? I want to see what happens. It doesn't always have to be like, you know, a horrible person doing drugs. It can be somebody who's just curious. And then you're wasting tax money putting them in prison when they're probably going to reoffend in a couple years anyways, doing a different drug or the same drug.
Right. Right. Good point. Good point. Jasmine, you wrote a lot here. You want to speak up on what you put?
Oh, I said that they should implement a mandatory reform program in every prison because some people need, but the problem, sorry, one sec. Let me put my thoughts in order. Some people need different types of reformation, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, some people may not see any problem at all with killing someone, you know? They might think it's like, they might think of the world as survival of the fittest. So they would need to realize I guess they'd probably need to realize empathy and like, that you can't just kill people. But some other people have problems with drugs. And I don't know who was talking just now, but they said that if they're going to do drugs, then they're going to do drugs. Yeah, but we can't just let them do drugs and hurt people and then get away with it and then let them use the excuse of, oh, I'm addicted.
Right. And I think that the point was that I think is like alcohol today. It is, if you're over 21, you can drink alcohol. But if you drink alcohol and drive, there could be a punishment with that, you know? So there's still, I don't think you're taking away, you know, you can't get unless you're a minor, you know, you cannot, they don't put you in jail for having alcohol. They do for drugs. So I think that was the point, is that I don't think anybody would argue that, okay, well, if somebody does magic mushrooms and then gets behind the wheel, that's okay. That's a crime in and of itself, is driving under the influence.
And I wanted to make the point real quick. I'm not like saying that like using drugs is okay and that there shouldn't be like restrictions on it, but people are going to do what they are going to do regardless. Like, and I feel like there should definitely be like still consequences, like you're saying. If you like do mushrooms or something and then get in a car and drive and you hurt somebody, or you even think like, why would you drive in the first place? I feel like there should be more like thought to it, and there definitely should still be like restrictions. And you shouldn't be able to drive or anything like that. But I feel like if we definitely like took less time dealing with repeat drug offenders, it would be helpful to the rest of the people who are in prison.
And has the war on drugs worked? You know, criminalizing drug use, has that worked? I mean, that's how I
Obviously
think.
not.
That's how I think we should look at things as a society. Is it working? If it is, well, let's continue it. If it's not working, then we got to try something else.
Yeah, and it makes sense to put someone in jail for long amounts of time if you know that they're just gonna go back out once they get out and do the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's true. That
Another
seems like
point, or sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Olivia.
Another point I was going to make was I know that like going to prison can, like, it causes PTSD and issues, and I have my own experience from that. Like my family members who have been to prison and stuff. Like one of my family members, for a simple drug offense, he went into prison and he came out with a lot more issues than he went in with. And I feel like that could have been prevented if we were focused on rehabilitation instead of just locking people up.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. We're 6 minutes over, believe it or not. So well, I'll have to stop it here to send you guys to your next class. So lots of thoughts on the Jamboard here. This is good. All right, listen, you guys have a good spring break. We will come back. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Or in 2 weeks, I'll see on Zoom. I'll see some of you in person on the Tuesday after spring break. So enjoy yourself, stay healthy, please, and stay safe.
Have a good break.
Bye.